Jos, and it will be in our Jos Network Center, where Caleb Gochin is ready to give us a picture of how the supplementary election in Plateau State will be. Caleb, you and I were on the field there in Jos, and we saw one of the areas that impressed most people about Plateau State in the election is the peace with which everyone took the elections. But it just was not concluded. So what are the situations that we are looking at for tomorrow's elections, and in what areas are we going to expect these rerun?
Thank you, Femi. Thank you very much. Yes, you were here and you saw it yourself. You were not told. And I tell you, Plateau people will only compliment what happened last time. So you expect to see more peaceful outing tomorrow. But then the stakeholders are here, so they will tell you more about that. Indeed, Plateau State is among the 6 that had inconclusive elections. And the people will again go to the field tomorrow to exercise their franchise. Although only 9 local governments are involved for that. So the police and the INEC are here, but then they will come in after this situation report. Stakeholders in election management are expressing optimism that the supplementary elections in Plateau State will be smooth and without hitches. Greenred Sylvanus Lord takes us through the various stages of preparation and reports that all is set for the exercise.
Plateau is among the states billed for supplementary elections come Saturday, 23rd March. From INEC's record, the exercise will take place in 9 local government areas, 19 rack centers and 40 polling units. From INEC's record, the exercise will take place in 9 local government areas, 19 rack centers and 40 polling units, where a total of 48,828 votes were cancelled and reason for the rerun.
We have already distributed the non-sensitive materials to the 9 local government areas. The sensitive materials have arrived just. We are now employing the use of what we call RATEC. That is the Registration Area Technical Assistance. Rather than using the COPAS as APO1, these RATECs are the people in the previous election that are being called upon to assist these core members that are handling the smart card readers.
To create a conducive atmosphere for this election, the police command expresses readiness.
That the police are up to the task, and I'm using this opportunity to warn anyone that has any motive of disrupting the election to desist. As a matter of fact, myself and the members of interagency consultation committee on electoral security, we met today, and there are certain measures, certain things that we have discussed concerning the security of the election.
From the 2 major political parties contending for the votes, they are confident that the eventual results will change the course of events.
As a party, we are very prepared for this election. We have done all that is supposed to be done and ready for the Saturday supplementary election. Believing God that we will win, because we know how prepared we are, and we know that most of the places cancelled are our places.
As the APC is concerned, we know the INEC, they have done their very best, and they are still going to do their best. So as I've heard, the IPAC also are pleased with the activities of the INEC. So we have no cause to say we are not satisfied. We are very okay with their position.
Meanwhile, the joint security show of force has assured citizens of their safety.
And still on the elections, the DIG was in Jos today, where he met with officers and men of the Plateau State Command in preparation of the polls tomorrow. Let's hear from Kim Gotts.
Taiwo Lekanu said the command has been directed to double effort towards maintaining peace and security during and after the supplementary elections in the state. He said this was necessary following the identified security gaps in the last elections that must be addressed.
We are equally having detachment of mobile men, units of mobile men all over. We have studied, we did our analysis, and we know where we're going to place men, very close to the polling booths. These men will watch out for any problem that will emanate from the elections. As usual, those at the polling booths will not be armed, but we have our strategic teams that will be armed, and they will be very close to the various polling booths. We have to watch out for those that want to mess up the election by making attempts to snatch ballot boxes or card readers.
The DIG further held a closed-door strategic lecture with senior officers of the command.
Yes, gentlemen, Mr. Topev is here he is the Police Public Relations Officer, Plateau State Command, and Mr. Emma is the spokesperson in Plateau State, is a regular here. They are both regulars, actually. So from the report, how far have you gone with preparations tomorrow? I'm sure we've heard much, but I'm sure you'll tell us more.
Well, we are ready for the elections, as the report also said. Day before yesterday, we had what we termed a combined show of force. We are all security and law enforcement agencies on the plateau, brought in their personnel. We moved around Jos Town, that is Jos North and Jos South. First, we assured members of the public that their security and their safety is what we are going to take very seriously. It is also a signal to those people who would want to cause problem that we are ready for them. This morning, the DIG Taiwo Lekanu also was in town. He re-emphasized the fact that we are not going to leave any stone unturned. We are going to do everything possible. And thank God that even when it affected the entire state, that is 17 local governments, we did our best, and members of the public are there to attest to the fact that we tried, and there was peace during the elections. Nobody had any cause to complain. We are going to do more this time, and the Inspector General of Police, in his wisdom, decided that he will send more security to us. We have received a total of 5 units of the police mobile force. That is making a total of 315 police mobile force. They are going to also work very closely with the Mopo 8, which is the one that is in Jos here, and Mopo 66.
Yes, more security with less polling units. Why is it so?
We don't want to take any chances.
Oh.
That is it. And again, we have decided that there should be a restriction of movement, total restriction of movement from 6 a.m. tomorrow to 6 p.m. in the evening. Some people complained that the election is affecting only 9 local governments. Why are we restricting movement in the entire plateau? And our explanation is very simple. We wouldn't want a situation whereby some bad elements will move from other local governments where elections are not taking place to cross into the places where elections are taking place. And that's exactly what we have decided to do. So there will be no movement in Plateau till after the elections.
Okay, so for those who have... Anyway, let's hear from you, sir, your level of preparations. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Caleb. I know that we have worked on this issue. Shortly after the election was declared inconclusive, we started with the stakeholders meeting, and we started last Saturday with the political parties and the media, the electoral officers. And what we have done so far is to ensure that the timeline we give ourselves, we've met them. And as we speak, all the officers, the ad hoc staff, precisely core members and the RATEX that were those who were in charge of the various card readers during the last election, and then the officers who are staff of the commission that will serve as APO 2-3 They've been moved to the various rack centers as we speak. And right now in our office, we are having a refresher training with the coalition officers from the various, from the University of Jos. And so we're ready for the election because, like we said, the elections will take place in very few polling units, 9 local government areas. And so we know that the way we performed during the last election, the people complained that the card readers didn't work this time around because those who were in charge of effective repairs in the card readers are those who will serve as the APO1 this time. And so we expect that by 8 o'clock, the centers will be opened. During the last election, during the gubernatorial elections, you realize that by 8 o'clock, it was 57.9%. And by 10 o'clock, that is the total number of polling units open. By 10 o'clock, it was 96.9. So what it means is that because we know that we have very few polling units for the gubernatorial elections and then the Lantan South state constituency, where we have 6 polling units where the elections will take place. So we expect that the elections will start early, and plus or minus, we should be expecting that by 2-3 o'clock, everything would have been concluded.
Okay, so how is this one different from the others? This is supplementary now. So it means that it's only for most of the local governments, it's just for the governor that we're going to have.
Yes, yes.
So how is it going to be? Is the normal thing that they went through last time or something?
Yeah, it's the same process for 9 local government areas where we have a supplementary for the governorship, and then in Lantan South specifically where we have inconclusive election for the State House of Assembly, the election will still take place there. It's the same process of getting to the place, identifying yourself, finding out whether your name is in the voters' roll. After that, you give your card. They use the card reader to authenticate whether the card belongs to you. And after that, you do your normal fingerprint to authenticate the whole stuff, whether the card really, whether you're not using impersonating or using another person's card.
Oh, okay.
So it is not different from what we had during the process. But I think that this time around, why we decide to use our staff to even add to it. The National Commissioner in charge of our zone, Professor Antonia Sibini, is right here to assist to assist or supervise the election. And then we have the resident electoral commissioner from Gombe, who is already here.
So you're also having extra hands.
Yes, just like we have in all the states.
Okay, that's interesting. So what is expected of the people, tomorrow? Apart from the restriction, what other things do you think they have to, just briefly?
Well, the members of the public are called upon to be orderly in their own, as they come out to cast their votes. Nobody is going to intimidate them. Nobody is going to molest them. We are going to make sure that nothing happens to anybody. Don't be afraid that anything will happen, and that is why we are there. We are going to make sure that nothing happens. And again, the 4 lines are opened at the command headquarters. You can call them. People have started calling because immediately we announced the restriction of movement. People started calling those lines to inquire whether it is true or not.
So okay, thank you very much, Mr. I hope their votes will count.
No, certainly the votes will count. And that is why we're using our staff. That is what, because the number of polling units are very few, and we expect that because we're using our staff, the staff will not want to embarrass themselves, so they will do the job the way it ought to be.
All right, thank you very much, Femi. That's the much we can take from here, and that is the situation from Jos. So expect the best tomorrow. Back to you.
Caleb, before you go, let me ask the INEC spokesperson. Shortly during the last election, shortly after the announcement of the election, one Honorable Ezekiel passed away. I don't know if his election has been slated to hold now or another day. INEC will fix another day for his own election.
Really, it was earlier scheduled that the election for the by-election in Pegana would take place. But, we've not even issued out a state certificate of returns. And so it has been, the commission had decided that we should give time for us to handle that issue. Remember, they will need to conduct their primaries to elect the representative of the party. That is the APC now. And so it is not holding tomorrow. A new date will be fixed shortly for the election in Pegana state constituency.
To allow the party to which Honorable Ezekiel belonged, the APC, field another candidate for that election. That's a position, isn't it? That's a position. That's
their primaries, elect who will become their representative. Both of them, he will not join the other candidates that ran against him, against the later member-elect, who was also a member in the State House of Assembly. So it's to give them the opportunity to choose who will now run against the other candidates he ran with.
Very much, Jos Center and Caleb Guchin, thank you very much. And we still have another center waiting, but this time it's the center in the Federal Capital Territory where Fatima Umar Buba is going to lead us through the state of preparation of the FCT and the elections that will be held in that area. Fatima.
Okay, for that. And thank you very much for in the FCT Nigeria Decides studios. Supplementary elections for the chairmanship seats in the 3 area councils of Kwali, Wari and Kuje will be holding tomorrow, the 23rd of March 2019. And according to FCT INEC, elections will be holding in 5 out of 6 area councils of the FCT. Supplementary elections will also be holding in Gwagwalada and Abuja area councils to conclude the councillorship elections for 1 ward each. Where the elections were inconclusive, a breakdown shows that Wari Area Council has 16 polling units where supplementary elections will be holding, and Kuje Area Council has 22 polling units and Kwali 1 polling unit. In all, we will be conducting supplementary elections in 41 polling units in the FCT. That's across the 5 area councils affected. Meanwhile, our reporters have been around the city, keeping tab on the situation, and we have a number of reports lined up for you at this level, on the level of preparations for tomorrow's outing, and also from the electoral umpire, the security, and also the electorates themselves. But we also have a guest in the studio with me, one to my right and the other one to my left. We have the FCT INEC resident electoral commissioner. He is Yahaya Bello, and also Valentine Olumise. He is the assistant commissioner of police operations, FCT Police Command. Would definitely discuss about the elections coming up tomorrow in the 5 area councils. But first, let's take some reports before we continue with our discussions. Well, I'm going to start with INEC. The Federal Capital Territory Independent National Electoral Commission has met with political parties to fine-tune strategies ahead of the Saturday's supplementary elections in the 5 area councils affected. Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji reports.
The meeting, which was at the instance of the FCT Independent National Electoral Commission, had in attendance representatives of political parties and officials of the commission. According to the resident electoral commissioner, discussions centered on the inconclusive elections in 5 out of the 6 area councils, with a view to finding a common ground.
As I told them during the stakeholders meeting, INEC has not conducted an inconclusive election. The inconclusiveness is as a result of, action of miscreants organized by political parties, not by INEC. We can reconstruct based on that evidence. So we're laying somebody on the road and destroying originals or anything should not be able to serve the purpose of political party thugs and those of their masters. This is the message, at least, that we are able to get.
In the agenda of this our stakeholder meeting is how we can fashion out ways of conducting this supplementary election free, credible, and peaceful.
The FCT Independent National Electoral Commission said, following the outcome of the meeting, it will ensure all is put in place for the smooth conduct of the supplementary elections. Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji, NTA News.
Well, thank you very much, Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji, for that. And then still with INEC, the Federal Capital Territory INEC Commission has distributed sensitive election materials to the area councils where supplementary elections will hold tomorrow. And again, Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji has it.
After the March 9th, 2019 area council elections in the FCT, the chairmanship elections for 3 area councils of Kuje, Buari, and Kwali were declared inconclusive. Likewise, councillorship elections in 1 ward in Abuja and Gogolada area councils haven't taken delivery of the sensitive materials for Saturday, March 23rd supplementary elections in about 16 polling units of Buari area council and 1 each in Gogolada and Kuje area councils. Resident Electoral Commissioner for the FCT Independent National Electoral Commission, Yahya Bello, reiterated commitment towards concluding elections in the affected areas.
People have already been trained to do this work. For the sake of refreshing, they will also refresh their mind on the use of the card reader. All the sensitive materials that are needed for this election, they are ready.
He added that all funds needed for the elections had been disbursed, including transportation fare for the sensitive and non-sensitive materials. Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji, for that report. Yes, I said we have the INEC resident electoral commissioner here, Yahya Bello. It's good to have you on Nigeria Decides.
No, thank you very much, Madam Fatima, and thank you. Good evening, viewers.
Okay, we've seen 2 reports there by Abdullahi Suleiman Yaji, and from what we've seen, it's said that FCT INEC is prepared for tomorrow's outing. Is that right?
Absolutely. We are prepared, very well prepared. You recall that the inconclusiveness of this election, we already have our non-sensitive materials based in the local areas, area councils.
Okay.
All we had to do was just to deliver the sensitive materials, which we did this morning, which you saw on the screen.
Okay.
They have already been dispatched to all the area councils. All our ad hoc staff are already at the racks. Already they are having a refresher course, not only on the use of smart card readers, but also they will be asking questions about other issues. Other issues that necessitated the inconclusiveness of the election will also be discussed so that, it will be rectified, especially tomorrow in the field. By all our ad hoc staff, they are already in the camp. This night they will undergo this. All the allowances will be paid. In the morning, 6:30, the vehicles have already been arranged. The police security escort has already been arranged. They will be conveying men and materials to the polling units by 6:30 in the morning. And they will start, they will set up their own shop by 7 o'clock, and accreditation and simultaneous voting will begin by 8 o'clock tomorrow, by the grace of God.
Okay, so what you've said is that all necessary measures are put in place. That is exactly what you're saying.
Every measure has been put in place. And what necessitated for this inconclusive election, mostly, if you recall, it was
pockets of violence.
Exactly. And this pocket of violence occurred not at the point of voting, but at the point of coalition.
Okay.
It is already voting has been concluded. Political parties, security agents, they have signed their copies. It is when they come to the collation centers that they scattered this. So we have been meeting in the excess, that is inter-community, security, or election security, in which the Commissioner of Police and I are co-chairing.
Okay.
We are met in order to appraise exactly what we are going to do, to forestall people, truncating, the conclusion of results, especially at the centers. These things were done not at the centers, but not at the units. Election has been concluded.
Okay.
The smart card readers have captured this.
Okay.
It has in the form, but the security have been making proper arrangement to ensure that every ad hoc staff, all the collection officers, all the returning officers are escorted with security in order to safeguard men and materials.
Okay, so lastly, from you now, is there any possibility of having an inconclusive rerun in the advent of such?
I don't think there will be inconclusive election after this inconclusive election. You know, because you can also use the result that has been concluded. You can use it and reconstruct the result. You know, destroying the originals, destroying it on the pathway or on the way, bringing it to the center or other thing will not be able to deter the commission from compiling and reconstructing and getting, you know, making proper entrance and declaring winners and also losers.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner Yahya Bello. Now let's move to security. With few hours to the rerun elections in 3 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory, the FCT Police Command has assured residents of adequate security preparations to ensure a hitch-free election. And Aina J. Outa has the report.
Exclusive interview with NTA News, Commissioner of Police FCT Bala Chiroma said the command is fully prepared to ensure that there is no repeat of violence experienced in Kuje, Kwali and Buari area councils during the March 9th area councils elections.
As regards our security arrangements for the rerun election, I want to assure members of the public that we've made adequate arrangements. You know, synergy between the security agencies. Apart from police, we have other security agencies also deployed. I want you to also note that the area of coverage now reduced. Therefore, we'll have more than adequate number of security officers.
Adding that their officers and men will be deployed to all the polling units affected for the chairmanship and councillorship rerun, while urging residents to cooperate with the police in the area of information sharing.
Provide adequate security. We'll have gunmen at distances that are allowed. We'll also fortify the polling process.
Similarly, preparatory to the supplementary elections, residents of Kuje Area Council, one of the 3 area councils where elections were declared inconclusive, have expressed high hopes that the election rerun will be held in an atmosphere of peace, irrespective of who wins the elections.
Please, we need enough security. We need a security in that very day on Saturday. We need enough security so that they guard the box and guard us all when we are there.
Anybody who vote, you do what you want. When you vote your vote, try and go back to your house.
They, however, call on security personnel to remain neutral and be professional in the provision of security of lives and the protection of election materials, while appealing to other residents to cooperate by ensuring that they conduct themselves well during and after the elections. Aina J. Outa, NTA News.
On the Federal Capital Territory, police says sequel to the area council rerun elections in some affected councils of the Buari, Kuje and Kwali slated for tomorrow, the 23rd March. There will be a restriction of vehicular movements in all the wards affected from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 p.m. Due to the sensitive nature of their services, the ambulances, fire service trucks and other essential duties are exempted from the vehicular movement. Restriction in a statement signed by the FCT Police Command spokesman Anjuguri Manza assures residents of proactive security measures put in place for a peaceful conduct of the rerun elections, while urging residents to keep in handy the Joint Operations Center numbers comprising of the security agencies, and they are 09052 39788, 080-241-30926, 090-514-88448, and 070-149-51751. And like I said earlier, we have Valentine Mise. He is the Assistant Commissioner of Police, FCT Police Command. Good to have you on Nigeria Decides.
Thank you, Fatima.
So it's all about security. We've watched reports by Nigeria Outer. Yeah. So tell me, how prepared are you? What have you done differently to avoid reoccurrence of what happened in the last election?
Yeah, we are well prepared. We have enough men for deployment now, since the election will conduct just about a few polling units. And we have about 2,300 men deployed to these areas. Aside that, we have the striking units. Okay. Each unit stationed in the local councils. Okay. And in the event of anything, we'll be able to react. Since those that will be deployed to polling, you will not be carrying arms. The army will be some distance away. In the unit, you have about 63 men. So whoever is not ready for election should not even come out. And I will advise those that are not seeing the idea of coming to disrupt election, that are just parading at the gate of prisons. Okay. Because if they did disrupt election, then they will have themselves to blame.
Okay, so can we have an idea of the number of personnel that the FCT Police Command is deploying to these areas?
Just as I said, 2,300 men deployed.
Okay, how about Buhari? Is it the same number of personnel you would send to Buhari and others?
On the whole, it's about 2,300 deployed.
Okay.
Then, in each of the area council, you have a unit of striking men. And the unit has 63. Buhari 63. Kuje 63.
Okay.
Kwali 63.
Okay.
These are striking units that are carrying arms. Then you have 10 men deployed to each polling booth.
Okay.
All over.
Okay. Well, the press release I just read we just read out some security numbers. So can you tell us how effective is the Joint Operation Center?
Oh, very effective.
Okay.
Once a report is received, the Joint Operation Center call the unit commander in charge of this unit to respond to those areas where there are problems.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much. It's good to have you on Nigeria Decides. I will call upon you where we need you. And thank you very much, sir, once again for coming on Nigeria Decides.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, Femi Okeo, that's it from this end, but we'll keep you posted as the new things unfold from this end. It's over to you, Femi.
Thank you, Fatima. Don't go yet. I like that your question that is it possible to have an inconclusive rerun or supplementary election? And the INEC chairman for FCT said no. Can I revisit that issue? What stops an inconclusive election being inconclusive when it's taken again? Why would it not? You are so assertive that no, it can't happen. I think we'll take that issue here in the studio. But then let us take a breaking story that is very closely related to what we are doing now. And it is from the Osun State Election Tribunal. The Election Tribunal, Petition Tribunal, has declared Senator Ademola Adeleke as the winner of the Osun State governorship election. The tribunal held that the petitioner succeeded in its claim of winning the election conducted on the 22nd of September 2018. Olabode Arewa reports that the tribunal also agreed that the petitioner allegedly proved that INEC officials made alterations on the election result after the announcement. The tribunal ordered INEC to retrieve the certificate of return from Governor Boyega Oyetola and issued the certificate of return to Senator Ademola Adeleke. There was, however, a minority judgment. Now, let's take a story on the joint security briefing on elections, and it's from Ismail Musa.
The Joint Security Spokesperson's News Conference is to shed light on the operations of security agencies at the just concluded 2019 general elections and preparations for the March 23rd, supplementary electoral process across the country.
The military in a joint
The forum noted that the involvement of military in the elections on the invitation of INEC is backed by the Constitution.
There is no doubt that the Nigerian police is the lead security agency tasked with the provision of security at the polls, while the military is to support the police and other security agencies by providing security at the outer cordons.
On the alleged misconduct of some security personnel, the first public relations officer explained that investigations are ongoing.
The alleged involvement of some security agents in some of these unfortunate incidents is of serious concern to the military and the police high command. While we appreciate the fact that some of these issues may be as a result of the overzealousness of some personnel, it is instructive to note that some of these incidents were instances of impersonation by political thugs clad in military and police uniforms.
There is no loggerheads between the armed forces of Nigeria and the police force.
He assured the public that both the military and paramilitary security agencies are working together to create an enabling environment for voters. From the Defense Headquarters in Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Thank you, Ismail. And having gone around the country, gone to some centers, let's take some of the issues that have arisen. And let's start from where FCT seemingly concluded. What stops an inconclusive election from being inconclusive again, Dr. Adeni?
Yeah, I think we can actually look at it from two perspectives. One, from the strict legal perspective, and the other from the moral, social point of view, sociological point of view. The first is that, the situation that led to an election being declared an inconclusive is dependent on one condition. That is, the difference between the winner, the declared winner, yes, and the first runner-up is less than the number of cancelled votes, yes, okay? We only expect that such will not repeat itself again in the second ballot, in the runoff election, because the number of votes will have reduced this time, and we anticipate that the electoral body will be careful not to run into any technical hitch this time around. And of course, there should come a time where the line will be drawn, that on this occasion we can no more proceed, as many voters, as many electors that turn up, as many votes as possible that is recorded, we're going to make a judgment based on that score. We cannot continue with inconclusive election ad infinitum. Okay. The law is there to be interpreted and to be applied in accordance by the electoral body. I'm not sure that any other organization will have to do this other than themselves. Okay, and the moral aspect of it is, of course, what we've also hinted, there has to be a cutoff point, there has to be a cutoff point, and we alluded earlier to the strain, the emotional strain that the electoral process represents. It stops so many things when results are being expected. Businesses are hindered, decisions are kept on hold, yes, so many things, there's a wrench in the monkey of so many things that we're doing. So until we are able to deal with it as quickly as possible, and I'm sure that the umpire, the agencies are living up to expectation with the many information, with the many stories we have had, and I think that they're going to deliver the goods for us by the end of tomorrow.
Jide, some people have argued that some of the circumstances that led to this inconclusive election and rerun is that people who did some wrong were being made to enjoy the fruit of their wrongdoing. Do we have circumstances like that where people went and disrupted elections when they perceived that they were losing, only for a rerun to be, or supplementary election to be reordered?
Well, that's why in my earlier comment I said part of the reason we should celebrate inconclusive election is INEC not wanting to reward bad behavior of politicians. What politicians, particularly the desperate ones amongst them, wants to do is to give a technical knockout to their opponent. And by what they try to do is they will go to the stronghold of their opponent and foment trouble, cause chaos, orchestrate violence. Knowing full well that the law is very clear, where you have violence is 0 votes, you are going to cancel. Meanwhile, they protect their own territory. Now, if you allow that to go in determining the conclusiveness of an election, without giving those people whose votes were cancelled another opportunity to exercise their franchise, you are rewarding bad behavior.
And make a difference
exactly.
in the votes.
Because what it then means is that it's a recipe to disaster. Next time around, I will also want to go to my opponent's stronghold, cause confusion. So it will now be mutually assured destruction. But when you do it, INEC says you can't get away with it. We are going to go back and make sure that we have all the security, all the rough edges will be smoothened.
So that those votes will count.
That were cancelled will now count in the determination of their leader. That is the whole essence of why supplementary elections are holding. And you know, the reason why there may not likely be another inconclusiveness is that it matters less whether it's even 5% of voters that turn out tomorrow. The election will have been concluded because opportunities have been given to everyone in those precincts, in those units, to exercise their franchise. It is now left for them to either take that opportunity or reject that opportunity.
Thank you very much. Still so much on our table, so much on our plates to chew. But then Sokoto is waiting to have its due, and Dalhatu Abdullahi in our Sokoto Center is already waiting to give us a picture of what the Sokoto Sokoto zone is expecting for this supplementary election. Dalhatu, hi Sokoto, and how is the level of preparation?
Good evening, Femi Okeyu, and welcome to the seat of the Caliphate on Nigerian Decide Studio. But this time around, on the level of preparations toward concluding the inconclusive gubernatorial election in the state. We have in the studio the head of voter education and publicity, Mohammed Musa, from the INEC office in Sokoto.
Good evening, viewers.
I also have with me the Police Public Relations Officer, Sokoto State Command, ASP Muhammad Sadiq Abubakar. Muhammad?
Thank you. Good evening.
Let us have some reports from the studios before going into discussions. The Independent National Electoral Commission, Sokoto State, has assured of conducting free, fair, and credible supplementary governorship election across the 135 polling units in the state. Sadia Omar Degi completes the report.
2 weeks after the governorship and House of Assembly elections in Nigeria, which resulted to the declaration of 6 states' election as inconclusive, the Independent National Electoral Commission in Sokoto State says it has put in place necessary measures to ensure successful conduct of the supplementary elections come Saturday. The supplementary election will take place in 135 polling units across 22 local government areas of the state with more than 70,000 registered voters.
We've been talking to the security agency. This morning we had a meeting and we have narrowed it down that since the polling units are just about a quarter of what we have in Sokoto, the police and other security agencies should be able to man this polling unit to the fullest. Right now, as you saw me going out, I'm still going for another security meeting to fashion out modalities, the way we are going to particularly man these places, more especially those places that are prone to banditry attack.
The basis for INEC declaration of the election as inconclusive was that the number of cancelled votes in the 22 affected local governments exceeded the margin between the 2 leading parties. In the governorship result earlier declared by INEC returning officer in the state, PDP's Amin Waziri Tambuwal is leading with 489,558 votes, while APC's Ahmed Aliyu pulled 486,145, showing the difference of 3,413 votes.
Political parties in Sokoto State have appealed to residents to come out in numbers and vote for the party of their choice in the rerun elections slated for tomorrow. Musa Abubakar reports.
The countdown is on and the expectation remains the same, but who emerges the winner is what people here are looking forward to with keen interest as some of them go to the polls on Saturday.
You know, when it comes to issue of election, it's two things, either win or lose. Somebody has to win and the other has to lose. Therefore, we hope that that election shall be a free and fair and successful election.
The eligible voters will come out en masse and in a peaceful manner to present themselves at 8 o'clock in the morning and start voting. We also expect a very good conduct of the election officials, of the security personnel, of all the people in the community.
To call for the Sokoto State people so that please they should have a peaceful election, no violence, and please they should exercise patience and conduct their election free and fair.
If you vote, concentrate to choose a good leadership.
For political parties here, there's high optimism.
We call our people to be low and law-abiding in this. If you have something to do in that place, go. If you have not, please don't go. Allow people there with our agent to work there in the security. Make sure this election is peaceful.
Able voter in those affected areas to come out en masse and vote, because this is a decision-making vote. This is a decisive vote. This is the last chance for the people of Sokoto State to choose who govern them for the next 4 years.
Discussion we had with the security agencies, the assurance we have from them, we are sure that the election will be peace, free and fair.
Meanwhile, observers appeal to political parties to work together to ensure a hitch-free exercise.
People of Sokoto State are curious to see that the inconclusive governorship election is being concluded tomorrow. Head of voter education, how many polling units in how many local governments, out of how many local governments of the state, and how prepared is INEC?
Well, we are very prepared. We are good to go because already all the sensitive material have been distributed to local government. And by this evening, I believe they are all going to leave for the rack centers, where they will pass night and tomorrow morning they move to their polling unit. And we have planned adequately to ensure that by 8 o'clock, accreditation and voting commence continuously, simultaneously. Then at the same time, we have adequate ad hoc staff right from the APO1, APO2, APO3, as well as the collation officers. We have all posted them, and all the necessary things have been put in place in order to ensure the success of this election. And likewise, logistics also have been mapped out to ensure transportation of these people to their various polling units to conduct election tomorrow in the morning. Well, as INEC is concerned in Sokoto State, we are good to go. And we assure you that the election will be free, fair, and credible, because what we put in place is far better than what was put in place last election. This is it.
How many polling units? How many local governments? Yes. Out of how many local governments?
Yes, 135 polling units are affected within 22 local governments. And these are where the elections are going to take place. And with Gada having 29 polling units, and Kebedi has the highest with 39 polling units. 39? Yes, 39 polling units in Kebedi local government. Likewise, Sokoto North has 10 polling units. So other ones have 1, 2, or 3 polling units. And we have adequately taken care of all the problems we're anticipating. With regard to card readers, we have our RATEC are on standby at each and every place to ensure that they work out perfectly. Even the last election, we didn't have any challenge on card readers in Sokoto State. Our card readers work perfectly fine. Yes.
PPRO, security is a significant ingredient toward peaceful and violence-free polls. Absolutely. How prepared is the State Police Command in that area?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dalhatu, once again for having us here to inform the general public how prepared the Sokoto State Police Command is to ensure, once again, a hitch-free, credible, and free and fair elections back in the state of Sokoto. I would answer your question directly by telling you that deployments are the most important thing when it comes to manning elections.
Okay.
And we have successfully deployed our men.
Okay.
We were okay during the presidential and gubernatorial elections, which we are using as pretests for this one. And of course, with the limited number of polling units at hand and reinforcements from the headquarters, I want to believe we are more than ready to ensure a credible, hitch-free, free and fair elections back in the state of Sokoto.
Okay, thank you very much. The head of voter education, how prepared are you to see that delays have been avoided in the arrival of election materials?
Yes, I earlier mentioned to you that we have perfected our logistic plan.
Okay.
We have provided adequate vehicle and motorcycle to transport this ad hoc staff from the rack center to the polling unit. And when they finish also, they will be transported back to the collation center. So we have put in place, you know, these are only 135 polling units, so it will not pose any challenge to us to carry out the logistic plan. So we want to assure Nigerians that this time around, the elections will be conducted in such a manner that we have never witnessed. That's a free, fair, and credible with utmost care and professionalism.
Okay, thank you very much. PPRO, parts of the state were experiencing the issue of insurgency or insecurity, and those areas are among the areas where supplementary election is going to hold tomorrow, God willing. What assurance are you giving to the electorate to come out and be rest assured that they are going to be secured to cast their votes tomorrow?
Thank you very much once again. Remember, we conducted a successful presidential and gubernatorial elections back in the state of Sokoto, security-wise. And if we were able to do it then, and we are we are using the previous elections as pretests, then you should know that we have carefully reviewed and re-strategized wherever necessary, just so that we can guarantee the entire electorate of Sokoto of security and ensure that there is a peaceful atmosphere for the smooth conduct of election come tomorrow, Saturday, the 23rd of March.
Still on those parts that have been affected by a high level of insecurity. For example, Sokoto Isa Road. On the eve of governorship election, kidnapping was being experienced by some people on their way to cast their votes in their areas.
That was really an unfortunate incident that was quite unavoidable. But then, after its occurrence, we made sure we put everything in place to ensure that such an ugly incident does not repeat itself, not just along Isa, but in the entirety of Sokoto State. And we are doing so by, of course, synergizing with other security agencies, which we are having a very, very good relationship with at the moment. And we have all our operatives that have been deployed for the purpose of this election, and even after the election, that are going to be manning these areas that are extremely vulnerable at the moment. But then I would like to draw your attention to one fact, which is this issue of banditry is only as a result of a spillover of the military operations in Zamfara State. So these bandits are now looking for a new habitation, and we are doing everything possible to ensure that Sokoto does not become a habitation for anybody that is not.
See, you referred to that incident that occurred on the eve of the governorship election in Sokoto State along Sokoto Isa Road as unavoidable. Is it going to be avoided now?
Absolutely, absolutely. Why I used the word unavoidable then was because it was unforeseen. But for it to have occurred, then it's now an issue for us to review and of course prevent its reoccurrence, not just, like I said, along that road, but in every road that is peculiar, that has some peculiar similarities with those places where these unforeseen attacks could evolve from. We made sure we have covered them by making effective deployments of men that are able to handle whichever situation may arise from these areas. Not just these areas, even where voting is taking place, we have the men that are going to man those polling units, as well as men on standby, just to address effectively any unforeseen circumstance that may arise.
Okay, let us take some reports from the studios again. Sokoto State Police Command says it has concluded preparations to deploy adequate security personnel for the supplementary elections in the state. The state's Commissioner of Police, Muhammad Danjuma Garba, stated this at a security conference organized for stakeholders ahead of the supplementary elections. Musa Abubakar had the report.
Well, for the police and other security agencies here, there is a high state of alert and readiness to counter any form of security threat during and after the elections. This interactive session between security agencies and political stakeholders is amongst effort by the police to ensure violence-free elections.
Almost each and polling unit is being covered, and the best 5 personnel in each polling unit. So that is the deployment we are, and I feel with this deployment and some key areas, it's going to be properly manned. Both the state agencies with we police who are going to man that areas effectively.
All you need to do is to exhibit fairness and justice in whatever you do.
We need to secure every citizen in this country. So it's a Herculean task, actually. It's a very Herculean task, and I'm sure it is on the basis of priorities.
The interaction is aimed at ensuring a free and fair, credible elections in the state.
The joint security forces have assured of adequate provision to protect the electorate during the rerun elections. General Officer Commanding 8th Division of the Nigerian Army in Sokoto, Major General Hakim Oladapo Otiki, made this known before a show of force by security operatives in the state. Sheikh Muhammad Dati is there in our reports.
It's a show of force with a combination of security operatives in Sokoto State. The idea is not to scare the people, but rather to assure them that their lives and property are safe during the forthcoming rural gubernatorial election in Sokoto State. Earlier in an address, the GOC 8th Division of the Nigerian Army here in Sokoto warned the security operatives not to compromise their rules of engagement, and they should take care of what security is all about. This show of force is going to be extended to 3 major local governments that have the highest polling units.
We have a responsibility within our joint operations concept to come around when very important national assignments are to take place, an example like elections, to ensure that elections are conducted in the most safe manner.
It is a normal routine for the security operatives to carry out show of force whenever there is national assignment of this nature. Operatives were warned to desist from any act capable of tarnishing the image of their profession. The General Officer Commanding admonished politicians to play the game according to the rule, urging them to warn their supporters against any form of violence during the rerun elections.
The first is to assure the very good voters that they have nothing to fear, and that wherever and whenever they go out to carry out their civic responsibilities of voting, they will be protected.
The show of force covered the central city of Sokoto with the major streets in the metropolis.
Well, Piparo, thank you for coming, and Head of Voter Education will thank you for coming. Back to Femi Okeyu in Abuja for continuation of Nigerian Decides. Good evening.
Thank you, Dalhatu, and let's welcome you back to Nigeria Decides studio in Abuja. We have now been joined by the Director of Voter Education and Publicity of INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi. You're welcome to Nigeria Decides.
Thank you. Good
Your
evening.
home, I suppose. Second home.
Yes, it is the second home, I guess.
Okay, let's find out from you what INEC is putting in place this time around to avoid those circumstances that have generated a supplementary elections and elections around.
Thank you. I don't know where INEC can put anything in place. if you go to your statutes, the Electoral Act, which governs the process, especially sections 26 and 53 of that law, state quite clearly what circumstances may lead to inconclusive elections. So the law has put it in place, not INEC. It's expatiated on in the guidelines, regulations and guidelines formulated and published by the Commission, by INEC. But basically, as long as those circumstances don't arise, then there will be no inconclusive elections. But if those circumstances arise, then I'm afraid that there will be inconclusive elections. So, and I tell people we're only interested in processes, not necessarily the outcome or who wins the election, but the process. Whoever wins the election has to pass through the process. And we're guardians of the process. We superintend the process. So we'll have to be careful and we have to ensure that the process is followed. But if, for example, there's some unforeseen circumstances, there's violence, or there's a natural disaster of such magnitude as to impact on the elections, and then there will be inconclusive elections.
We have just been deliberating on the possibility of a supplementary election, an inconclusive election, becoming inconclusive. If INEC cannot put anything in place for a supplementary election, then INEC can possibly not put anything in place to stop a run of a supplementary election.
A run election is different.
Cannot stop an inconclusive election from being inconclusive.
Well, look, let me take an executive position of governorship, for example. If a candidate does not satisfy the threshold requirements, if it does not score 25% in 2/3 of the local governments of his state, then there will be a rerun election. There's nothing we can do about it because the law, the Constitution has said so. So the law has made provision for this kind of occurrences. It's not just a case of X gets the highest number of votes cast. If he doesn't get or she doesn't get the spread, then it will be inconclusive. And you have to go and conclude it on the second ballot. If that can still be inconclusive, and probably have to go to the third ballot.
You see, Mr. Osaze, the reason we are chewing this so much is that this panel had agreed, and most Nigerians who now know have agreed that it is not necessarily a negative thing in Nigeria to have a supplementary election or an inconclusive election. Having agreed that much, it therefore means that one should also paint the picture that can arise when you have an inconclusive election being inconclusive. Can that picture come up?
It's quite possible. Sadly, I'm happy this panel, and I watched you earlier, I'm happy the panel agrees that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing, in fact, because you have to understand the genesis of it. Everybody, through no fault of their own, did not have an opportunity to vote. For example, the natural disaster or there was extreme violence, we could not mobilize in certain units. The law says give them an opportunity. Because the democracy is all about numbers. Who scores, out of the people who turn out, who scores the highest number of votes cast? And if somebody is prevented in such circumstances spelled out in the law, then you must give them an opportunity. Further, if somebody who's strong in one place goes and causes mayhem in another place, and you decide to declare the election as concluded at first ballot, you have deprived so many people. That does not meet the basic tenets of democracy. There's inclusivity in everything that we do. It's a different thing where they do some bad things or you sit at home. That's your choice. Even in some countries, it's still mandatory that you vote. But we don't have that here. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Going to the root of the philosophical underpinnings of those sections, it is a good thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oluwole Osaze, for coming into the studio at this time. And we have increased, at least in knowledge and in picture of what is going on in Nigeria now. It's a form of criticism by analysts about the number of inconclusive elections we have had, but we have had also from people, authorities who know what this is doing to our democracy. One other person we are going to join now is Pan Dunyam, who is in our Makurdi Network Center. That is another place where we are going to have a supplementary election for governorship and some little scattered House of Assembly seats here and there. Pan, will want to know from you how ready you are there not just the Nigerian Decide studios, because we know you are ready, that's why you are up now, but the election atmosphere in Benue State.
Well, thanks, Femi. The election atmosphere in Benue State is actually ready and set. And as it were, I am being joined in the studios by people who have made out time, all the time, to be part of what we're doing here. We are privileged to have Dr. Nentawe Yelwada, who is a resident electoral commissioner in Benue State. You're welcome to be part of the Nigeria Decide studios for the conclusion of the inconclusive elections.
Thank you.
We are also being joined in the studios by Dr. Daniel Bo from the Mass Comm Department, Benue State University. So it is our privilege to have you once again.
Thank you, Nigeria.
Yes, just before we go into the discussions, let us get a few reports of the level of preparedness by INEC and other agencies here in Benue State. The Independent National Electoral Commission in Benue State is to conduct the supplementary governorship elections in 22 local government areas and the state assembly 9 local government areas on Saturday, March 23rd, 2019. Resident Electoral Commissioner Dr. Nentawe Yelwada disclosed this after a meeting with stakeholders in Makudi. Charles Abba reports.
The cancellation of the governorship and state assembly elections in some areas in Benue State by INEC was due to violence and failure to use card readers. The resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Nentawe Yelwada, explained that only 109,733 voters who collected their PVCs out of the 121,299 registered ones would participate in the governorship polls. He added that the elections will be held in 204 polling units and registration areas across 22 local government areas in the state.
If any electoral officer refuses to give any information to anybody that is required, our doors are open. Our telephone lines that we get are still open. You can report them and we can take little action on any electoral officer. Any NGO that doesn't provide information of what is shared at the center here, like I told you, will take down the electoral officer immediately.
Dr. Nentawe further indicated that no new party agents would be admitted for the exercise and that electoral officers for Obi and Vandekia local government areas have been stepped down from the supplementary elections. The Commissioner of Police, the Deputy Governor of Benue State, Benson Abonu, and other stakeholders appealed for peaceful polls.
This election does not warrant the loss of one single life. And that's what will bother all of us who are leaders.
The Commission says there will be no movement of persons during the exercise across the state.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has been distributing sensitive and insensitive materials ahead of Saturday's supplementary elections in Benue State. Blessing Omeche Ebute monitored the exercise.
The materials are Wednesday night preparatory to the supplementary election in the state. Benue State Resident Electoral Commissioner Dr. Nentawe Yelwada says the sensitive and non-sensitive materials will be sorted out according to local government areas and dispatched to the various registration areas for onward distribution to the polling units.
Now, we are batching them based on the requirements. We have 207 polling units affected by this supplementary election and 51 RAs affected by this election. Now, the highest of all of them is 49 polling units in one local government called Constitutional Local Government. And we are sorting out these materials to meet up these requirements as required by these polling units and requirements.
He adds that tight security taken to safeguard the ad hoc staff and protect the materials.
There's intensity of interest by the contending political parties involved in this election. And normally you have early warning signs that gives you some resemblance of what you should expect when it comes to security tactics that you need to approach. And we are making security approaches based on the early warning signs we've seen. Because of that, all the materials will be in the local government headquarters instead of normal racks normally host them.
Some political party agents who commended INEC for the proactive measures taken expressed optimism that the elections will be free and credible.
We are giving that benefit of doubt to INEC, and that is the umpire in the election. They have told us that everything is in place, and like we are here to witness the movement of these materials, sensitive materials from the central bank in Makurdi here to the various local governments.
There should be enough security, there should be enough monitoring of the activities of everyone involved so that we have a very fair and conclusive elections.
The supplementary governorship election is expected to hold in 22 local government areas, while the state assembly polls will be in 9 local government areas of the state.
Well, we have received a few reports there, and thanks, Blessing, for... Right now, Prof, would like to come to you. Looking at the level of preparedness, what would you say is the situation like?
Well, as I'm talking to you, all materials in the local governments, all the ad hoc staff are ready and prepared. We've taken measures to ensure that from the quality of staff we selected, and also the distribution of materials, and the security architecture adopted, both the outer cordon, inner cordon, and the center, we've ensured that everything is going to be watertight.
Okay. You're talking about watertight. Would you like to break it a little further for us?
Yes. You know, in our last, we did a postmortem of the last election that we had.
Okay.
And all the crises that we had, no crisis actually took, no incident took place at the polling unit. All incidents are either before the polling unit or at the collection centers. So what did we do? We took steps.
Okay.
The outer cordon, normally the military will take over. The center cordon will be taken over by armed security personnel, and then the inner cordon will be taken over by unarmed security personnel.
Okay.
Now what we've done is to reinforce the security around the polling units before the arrivals, and that will ensure that no material is attacked. Then we discover they targeted our collection centers so that where they feel they are weaker, they attempt to break into our collection centers and destroy the results.
Okay.
What we've done is reinforce security around the collection center, up our strategy outside so that we have double cordon within the collection centers. That will ensure that you don't have any form of breakthrough within the collection centers, so that our results can reach safely to various destinations.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bo, the level of preparedness, just as the REC has explained now, don't you think that will affect our psyche coming out for the elections?
Well, for everything, there's a good and bad side. It's natural.
Yes.
But first of all, let me commend Benue people for having received so much PVCs. After 121, you have about 109. That's almost 90%. Perhaps the highest in the whole country. And I want to commend that. Then to your question, I think that there's a positive side to it.
Okay.
There's a lot of tension and interest because this is the last lap. And therefore, everybody is keen to ensure that he doesn't lose out. And so the pressure is there. So if you build up security in corridors, as I have said, I think there's nothing wrong with it. The problem would be where, as we have read, security decides to compromise and keep some people out and allow some people in. These are reports we cannot rely on, we have read. So we are thinking that they will be transparent as we have known them to be, and ensure that those who are supposed to over the calculations and the retrievers and are allowed access into the areas. That will serve Nigeria very well. It will serve the interest of democracy very well, and it will give confidence to people. And I think that, having said that, then the other issue is that I think that the materials, as the REC has said, have arrived at destinations where they should be. And I think that it will do us a lot of favor if they keep security tight
environment around those areas, so that, like you said, you can never, everybody will always know his weak points and strong points, his weak areas and strong areas. And until we're able to safeguard it, still happen. And so I think that it's good to keep those security in cycles, and then ensure the safety of not just Nigeria, but of people who come to vote as well.
The reason we are here today is to conclude the inconclusive. Looking at Benue State, we have 23 local government areas.
Yes.
And 22 out of those 23 have issues. What would you think is the reason for this, Doc?
I think it's about dissatisfaction, that's first. It's about greed, number two. It's about desperation, number three. It's about the failure of the rule of law, as we have seen in the past. And let me say this. Now, if we go around a cycle of inconclusive elections, there's something I think should happen. Those who cause the inconclusiveness of the election should not be allowed to cause inconclusive election that will come in 2023. If nothing happens to them, I wonder what will restrain them from doing the same thing that they did. They have pushed us to spend more money on a process that would have settled and start celebrating. So the country had to sit up.
Okay.
It is not just about having security corridors. We should see what we are going to do at the end of the exercise. How do we punish those who caused Nigeria, whose economy we are just struggling to revive, to spend more money on election process, spend it to cost us this much?
Okay, Ren, now talking about stopping this inconclusive thing, hopefully by 2023,
yes.
Can tomorrow's or can Saturday's election actually be declared inconclusive again, for whatever reason?
Well, it is the instrument that you use that either declares the election conclusive or inconclusive. So the electoral manager doesn't declare election inconclusive by himself. The Constitution, the Electoral Act, and the regulation guides the outcome of an election. So nobody guides, no individual guides the outcome of an election.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the doctor started suggesting ways that we could stop this. From what he has, I wouldn't know if you'd like to add one or two ways to...
Yes, I agree with him absolutely that we need to improve on quality of electoral process. Some of our processes we can improve on them. Okay. We can bring in more technology. Like I said last time, when technology was brought to the polling unit, we discovered that it stopped crisis at the polling unit and it migrated from polling unit to collation centers. We can migrate technology from the polling unit also to the collation centers. If we improve on the quality of collation, so maybe we have e-collation of results, then it means that people will not be at the collection centers. And when we put disappear collection centers, simply means that nobody can attack the collection center. So improving technology in our processes will also reduce or mitigate the challenge that we have with all these people attacking the collection centers. And also even the money we spend on it also. Outside that also, we need to also improve on even the security that we're having. Because the number of security men we have is quite a number. You know, two ways to it. Either you collapse polling unit into a center, so you have voting centers, and you can have security around those places, so they have more people voting in one center, instead of having distributed polling units. Or you go ahead and also employ more security, get people involved, and that will also improve the quality of what we have at the outcome that we have at the electoral processes.
Okay. Yeah, particularly to INEC, for instance.
Yes.
There's so much talk about the polling or collation centers, polling units, and the rest of them.
Yes.
We are particular about ad hoc staff that suffered a lot of these assaults and attacks.
Yes.
This time around, is there any special arrangement to protect their lives and things like that?
Yes, I think we're having only 207 polling that will be involved in election on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's roughly about 4.1% of the total number of polling we have, because we have 5,102 polling units. So just having 207 of them, that's about 4.1%. 4.1% is a minute figure compared to what we have last time. So collapsing the security that you had for 5,102 to protect 1,207 polling units will make it more watertight. And we believe that with the security we have on ground and the number of insignificant, we can have some level of protection for the ad hoc staff that we have at the polling units.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bo, I wouldn't know if you have anything to add to this, looking at the fact that, well, can we actually say that enough publicity has gone out so that people can actually come out to...
Yeah. The awareness that Nigerians have received about the electoral process is huge, to be frank. The problem is that it is those challenges that are making people feel threatened that are the problem. Otherwise, there's no household you go into now that would not know that there's going to be rerun elections.
Yeah.
There's no household you go that did not tell you they are going to conduct, they are going to still go to vote for the government. They know all of that. The problem is those guarantees, those safe measures that are there. The fact that at the end of the day, the man believes that his vote has counted. Those are the key issues and the basic issues that people look up to either decide to go and vote or to stay at home. So I think that there's a lot of publicity, and with serious security that has been deployed, I think that people will turn out. What I'm not quite confident of is that if you look at the two elections, there has been a decline in the participation. That is the truth. And so much apathy. Yes, so much apathy. So the problem is that we should know what is responsible for that. Okay. And I think that will be done at the end of this election. A whole review of the processes, from security-wise, from participation, from INEC, conduct of INEC and its officials, has to be holistic if we want to move forward and avoid the pitfalls that we have seen ourselves.
Okay. But it may not be quite true, because we have 2.1% increase in participation compared to what we had in presidential election. More people turn out to vote in the governorship election than in the presidential election. The difference now is that we've analyzed the results. More people from rural communities turn out to vote more in the governorship election than people in the urban areas. Maybe because of the local, the House of Assembly election that took place across the local government. So these people are rural in themselves. So there's more rural mobilization. While people, most from the cities, may not even, maybe I'm in Benue, and I'm not from the state. So it may not make sense to me to have a House of Assembly member. But somebody who's in the village knows that that House of Assembly member is very critical to his existence in the rural community. The health facilities, the education, the policies that will come from the rural communities will be based by this single man that will come as House of Assembly members. And I think that's responsible for the huge turnout in the rural villages.
Okay. Well, we'll continue the discussions as we look at other things in the process. Meanwhile, we'll take one or two more reports. The Independent Electoral Commission has continued to step up measures to ensure effective and credible conduct of the governorship and state assembly supplementary elections in Benue State. This time is by the deployment of the National Commissioner in charge of information and voter education alongside 2 resident electoral commissioners to beef up monitoring of the exercise. Charles Saba tells us more.
The deployment of the National Commissioner, Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, alongside the resident electoral commissioners of Niger State, Professor Sam Ebo, and that of Kwara, Atahiru Garba, is to provide in-depth clarification on grey issues that might arise in the electoral process. The National Commissioner says INEC on the supplementary elections by the early distribution of sensitive and non-sensitive materials to the 22 local government areas involved in the exercise. He maintained that security is a key factor in delivering peaceful polls.
I am aware that in the past few days, the resident electoral commissioner has carried out consultations with security agencies adequate enough to keep them informed about how to deploy to guarantee security for INEC materials, INEC personnel, and the voters themselves.
Mr. Okoye, who explained that the Obi-Oju Federal Constituency elections remains inconclusive, refuted the rumors that the State INEC Collection Office has been relocated. The Commission reiterated the movement of persons between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. during the exercise.
Thank you very much, Pam. That's the much we will take from your end. And we still have a full day on the election day. That's a Saturday. And we'll be taking more from the various centers. But now, as we get to the home stretch here in Abuja, let us take this report from Bauchi about the state of readiness, the update from Haruna Adams.
Bauchi State Governorship Election Returning Officer Professor Kari Mohammed declared the election inconclusive, having found out that the number of council votes, which stands at 22,759, were more than the margin of lead of 4,059 votes between the two candidates. However, the supplementary election will be held in 29 wards covering 36 polling units where elections were not held or results cancelled due to overvoting or bypassing of smart card readers. Head of Voter Education and Publicity of the Commission, Ahmad Waziri, explained that all sensitive and non-sensitive materials have been distributed to all affected local government areas for onward distribution to the polling units.
The sensitive materials, which includes the card reader, the ballot paper, and the result sheets to the affected polling units.
The supplementary election will also include that of Kirfi local government state constituency. Meanwhile, the two political parties, APC and the PDP, involved in the supplementary election express readiness.
We are going for the PUs in the 15 other local government, which is okay. We are fully prepared.
As a law-abiding citizen, I want to assure the good people of both states that we are facing the polls with an open and peaceful mind.
At the time of filing in this report, the State Commissioner of Police and other officers were in a meeting. In Bauchi, Adamu Haruna Adams, NTA News.
Yeah, thank you. Now let's quickly round up and get our closing thoughts. But then our closing thoughts must be circled around injunctions that we've been having in courts. From your opinion, how healthy is this for our electoral process? Particularly that these injunctions started to come out in their floods in between the general election and the supplementary elections.
Well, again, I think we have to look at it two ways. It is healthy that those who are aggrieved are going to the court to ventilate their grievances and they are not resorting to self-help, they are not orchestrating violence. But it is curious that some of those cases that are filed were actually aimed at tying the hands of the commission from concluding its legitimate duty. And my own worry is that because whether we are talking pre-election or post-election, time is of essence. Now, in pre-election matters, you have 180 days at the trial court, 60 days on appeal, just like post-election. Yes. And the luxury of time is not there for INEC to conclude all elections, because according to a section of to the relevant sections of the Constitution, all elections have to be concluded not earlier than 150 days and not later than 30 days to the expiration of the time of incumbent. Okay. So should these litigations drag till maybe April 29, there could be a constitutional crisis, in my own opinion.
Okay, let's get from Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi his thoughts.
Yeah, very well. Yes. Two perspectives, like you said, but most importantly, this resort to court, yes, it is legal, yes, it is their right, it is constitutional, it's a reflection of the underlying tension in political contestation. It's still a manifestation of the inability of the political class or the contesting class to understand the philosophy behind elections. You know, we need to come to that stage where our value system will be changed, our virtual system will be changed, and we understand that election is not necessarily something that you must win. There are two sides to it. You could either lose, okay? And we will keep making the point that it is important that winners should be magnanimous in victory, losers should be gracious, you know, in defeat, and believe that if you lose today, you can still win tomorrow. You know, you do not have to cocoon yourself to just one option, that I must win. And if I don't win, I will strain the system, I will stress the system, I will cause tension all over the place through the rightful court process anyway. You know, but we need to come to that times where we say, okay, I'm going to let this one go and hope that next time I will give it a try and I'll probably win.
Now, Mr. Oluwole Osaze-Uze, we see that and it's very clear that INEC in the last few months have been obeying court orders. But this new trend, particularly between general election and supplementary elections, is INEC complaining? Is it disruptive of your program that we are getting court injunctions?
I think, first of all, we have to put it in context. Say in the last few months has been obeying injunctions. This INEC has always obeyed all court injunctions, even going back to Ondo, going back right from the very beginning that it was inaugurated. And I think in the last, since 2009 or 2010, it's been a consistent policy of the Commission to obey all injunctions. Sometimes the challenge actually is when you have conflicting injunctions like you had in the Zamfara case. So it didn't even just start with this announcement of supplementary elections. Recall that the issues of whether Zamfara, the APC in Zamfara will have candidates dragged on to the, if not for the postponement and the rescheduling of the elections, probably will have been a different outcome. But that came after the date for rescheduling. And also, River State, whether the APC has candidates in that election or not, because of the failure to conduct primaries, those things were there. So maybe we tend to forget, but it's always been there. And this necessitated the meeting between the Commission and the hierarchy of the judiciary. Recall that, and you reported widely how the chairman had to visit the Chief Justice of Nigeria, had to visit the President of the Court of Appeal, and had to visit the Chief Judge of the FCT. And also, through the help of one of our development partners, we organized a workshop for justices of the tribunal and judges of the tribunal. So there's been an ongoing conversation and letting them know how impactful their own actions can be. And Nigeria has said so. It's a dispute mechanism put in place where disputes arise. And this is the best form of dispute resolution that we know, rather than going to the streets, rather than taking extra legal means. So these things are very important. But yes, it is quite impactful. Up till the end, you don't know, for example, the certainty as to whether they're candidates or they're not candidates. In Bauchi, we are not going to do anything in Tafawa Balewa because that is subject of litigation tomorrow. But 15 other local governments were going to do so for a little bit longer. The people of Bauchi will not know who their governor is, and the same thing for Adamawa. So it provides for uncertainty in the process.
And finally, let me quickly take this from you. How many certificates of return are you withholding, particularly for senatorial seats, and why?
Well, we have one, Imo, senatorial, where the returning officer made a report that his life was threatened, and at the earliest opportunity, while he was making a declaration, stated that, look, my life is under threat and my life of my family is under threat. This is not a declaration made for my own free will. We have similar cases in, I think, one in Niger, Benue, and Akwa Ibom. They're not senatorial, though. We, as a commission, have said we will not reward bad behavior. If anything at all, the law says people with such behavior, deviant behavior, should be punished. But these are allegations, these are based on the reports, and it's something we'll take further.
Thank you very much. You can see that the political atmosphere is still very active. It's just supplementary elections and see how much we have on our table to talk about. And that will continue tomorrow. Our Nigeria Decide studio will open at 9 o'clock. And there will be so much to talk about. We have to see these centers and see whether things are going the way we all hope they will. Thank you very much on your part for being faithful to this channel, for staying on with us on Nigeria Decides. I want to thank our guest, Jide Ojo, for being here, and then Dr. Abiodun Adeniyi for also coming here, and then the man who has to always divide himself between the field and the studio, Mr. Oluwole Osazeuzi, for coming to the studio. And I am Femi Okewo, thanking you, and we shall continue to brief you on the happenings on the field. See you again.
NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich. Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news.
Step into the exciting city of Lagos, a place where tradition and modernity come together. Considered Africa's own Big Apple, the city is home to luxurious hotels and some of the best shops and restaurants in the country. Enjoy the unique nightlife and thriving music scene of one of the most vibrant cities on earth. Rediscover relaxation in Nigeria's southern state of Akwa Ibom. Enjoy the finest hospitality at Le Méridien Hotel and Golf Resort, where the lush greens of the world-class 18-hole golf course and its unique location in the middle of the jungle will ensure a lifetime of memories. Discover the beautiful city of Calabar, capital of the Cross River State, a lovely and peaceful place located on the southeast coast.
Hello and a very warm welcome. This is the news on NTA International. My name is Justin Benue and here are the top stories. As INEC sets for supplementary elections on Saturday, Election Petition Tribunal declares Senator Ademola Adeleke winner of Osun State governorship election. President Buhari says the legislature and judiciary, besides a sufficient independence, should genuinely be empowered to perform without interference. Plus, as the world celebrates Global Water Day, federal government commences implementation of sanitation component of WASH Action Plan launched. Well, thank you very much for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law the Engineers Registration Amendment Act 2019. And this gives the Council of Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, far-reaching powers to prosecute infractions relating to, amongst others, engineering failures in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the report on these and other engagements of the President.
Apart from its far-reaching implications on the practice of engineering in the country, the Engineers Registration Amendment Act 2019 is, to say the least, an appropriate response to the incidences of building collapse in Nigeria.
This act grants COREN power to prosecute any person who is involved in any infraction in engineering practice, including engineering failures of any description. Again, the Act makes it mandatory for foreign engineering firms practicing in Nigeria to have mandatory attachments of Nigerian engineers to those engineering firms. And it makes it mandatory that they should train these Nigerian engineers so that they can take over from them. It also makes it mandatory that before any company, foreign engineering firm practices in Nigeria, COREN, certifies that there is no qualified engineers or skilled or practitioners in that field before those companies can be allowed to practice in Nigeria.
The Act also provides that foreign engineering firms must establish their design offices in Nigeria, while Nigerian engineers are not in any manner discriminated against in patronage.
If you are a foreign engineer or a foreign engineering firm, unlike what is the practice now, you are compulsorily to register with the Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria so that you could be responsible to the Council. Your foreign registration or qualification outside without registration in Nigeria under this Act does not suffice any longer. The Act provides that for NYSC, that is National Youth Service Corps, they are to be mandatorily attached or posted to places where they could have experience, that is engineering firms.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to the governor of Kaduna State, who formally reported to him that he was never involved in any accident.
Social media provides a platform for dissemination of information, but it is also a platform for dissemination of lies and hatred. And we should be very careful that we don't use this platform to advance the cause of the enemies of this country.
Governor El Rufai also responded to the claim of the 2019 elections victory by the PDP and his candidate Atiku Abubakar, describing it as a huge joke.
He has lost Kaduna, he will always lose Kaduna, and he will lose Kaduna 10 more times if he contests, because PDP has never won Kaduna. We don't know the existence of an INEC server, we don't know how they had access to it. They will tell us during the tribunal proceedings. We live in the age of fake news and fake claims, and anyone can make a claim, but you have to prove it.
The president also engaged the re-elected member of the House of Representatives from Kano State, Abdul Mumin Jibrin.
I believe that any elected senator or member of the APC will allow himself to be used by the opposition, like in the case of 2015. At this time around, if anybody allows himself to be used against the party by the opposition, there will certainly be consequences.
The chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Abdullahi Mukhtar, also briefed President Muhammadu Buhari on the diligent execution of the Commission's mandate to provide efficient and effective services to Nigerian pilgrims on the journey of faith. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the report on a 3-story building near collapse, the Abuja Metropolitan Management Council says it has resolved to eject occupants of the defected 3-story building in Gariki 2. Coordinator of the council, Umar Shaibu, said these are the final inspection of the building, and Debola Brooklyn Sunday reports.
The matter, we're not arguing here.
The scene was tensed as the coordinator and representative of the occupants, Lanre Ajibola, argued on whose responsibility it should be to fix the foundational problem.
How can you buy something and expect the person that you bought from to come and maintain the place that you bought?
If you sold the house to us and we later discover there are structural problems, that is not our problem, but we have been maintaining the building. They need to relocate us. I mean, where do you want to park the families to? You want to enforce? Are you going to throw our things on the streets?
The coordinator was emphatic about the council's take on the lives involved, especially as the rains are here.
Public building has also infected this place. If it involves bringing down the building, why not? If there is any measure, remedial measure that we do, we do. So that one will be later. But let's save lives first. Let the people evacuate this building and leave this building. Today we want to leave this building and we're sealing the place.
Discussing with in the council, maybe the Department of Facility Maintenance can look at the possibility of getting alternative accommodation for them for the meantime.
Investigation shows that owners bought the building from the federal government in 2006. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari says the legislature and the judiciary need not only be sufficiently independent, but genuinely empowered to perform their respective constitutional duties without interference, let or hindrance. And this was while inaugurating the Presidential Implementation Committee on the State Legislature and the State Judiciary, which he described as necessary preconditions towards achieving an enduring democratic culture in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo again has details.
In furtherance of his determination towards deepening Nigeria's democratic institutions and systems, President Muhammadu Buhari had in June last year assented to the fourth alteration bill of the 1999 Constitution as amended, thereby granting financial autonomy to the state judiciaries and houses of assembly.
May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
This presidential committee, with membership drawn from both the federal and state legislative as well as judicial arms of government, the NBA, civil society, and the Accountant General of the Federation, is to ensure that the autonomy granted the legislature and judiciary at the state level is maintained.
It is my hope that once this is done, there will be proper checks and balances, and the state legislature and judiciary shall be genuinely empowered to carry out their respective constitutional duties without fear of dominance or marginalization. The legislature, being the closest arm of government to the people, and the judiciary, as hope of the common man, must both be seen to be sufficiently independent to perform their respective constitutional roles without any interference, let or hindrance.
The committee has, amongst other terms of reference, to assess the level of compliance by all the states of the Federation and the FCT, consult and relate with the appropriate federal and state MDAs, as well as enforce where necessary the implementation of the constitutional provisions.
I urge members of the committee to be meticulous and diligent in discharging their duties and to ensure compliance with their approved terms of reference. We are committed to strengthening our democracy by ensuring separation of powers among the three tiers or arms of government, even at the state level.
Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, is the chairman of the committee, while the senior special assistant to the President on National Assembly matters, Senator Ita Enang, is to serve as secretary.
It is a stand of this committee to act within the bounds of Section 121, subsection 3, in galvanizing the relevant sectors of government and stakeholders towards the implementation and actualization of statutory autonomy granted to state legislature and state judiciary by our organic law, being the 1999 Constitution as amended. Legislative and judicial autonomy must prevail.
The committee has 3 months within which to complete its assignment. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The Election Petition Tribunal has declared Senator Ademola Adeleke as the winner of the Osun State governorship election. The tribunal held that the petitioner succeeded in its claim of winning the election conducted on 22nd September 2018. Olabode Ariwa reports that the tribunal also agreed that the petitioner allegedly proved that INEC officials made alterations on the election results after the announcement. The tribunal ordered INEC to retrieve the certificate of return from Governor Boyega Oyetola and issue certificate of return to Ademola Adeleke. There was also a minority judgment. In the meantime, the Independent National Electoral Commission says it has no regrets conducting supplementary elections because it is done on the side of the law and it is ready for tomorrow's supplementary elections. Let's join Mio Gidi for areas the elections will be conducted in 18 states of the Federation.
Pending a supplementary, we fix a date, the 23rd of March will be the date we'll conduct all pending supplementary elections. So the dates for the elections have been fixed. Let me see this opportunity to explain and clarify this to Nigerians. The Electoral Act is very clear. Section 26 and Section 53. Section 26 deals with violence. Section 53 talks about overvoting.
Where that occurs and the total number of registered persons in places where voting does not take place is in excess of the margin of lead, the Commission shall fix another date for the election. So what we have done is consistent with the provisions of the law. Election is, after all, a process governed by law. We can't circumvent the law. So where we need to go back to conclude the elections, we'll go back and conclude the elections.
That reference being made by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, comfortably places INEC on the side of the law, bearing in mind the public outcry and the discomfort that comes with inconclusive elections in the country. Feelers from the affected states indicate that all is set for March 23rd elections, while the people of Rivers State are warming up for April 13, 2019 for their own share of the supplementary elections. Mayor Ogidi, NT News.
Meanwhile, in furtherance of his commitment towards ensuring hitch-free elections in the country, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has directed the Zonal Assistant Inspector Generals of Police and their respective Commissioners of Police in states where supplementary elections are taking place to ensure that adequate mechanisms are in place towards ensuring a safe and secure environment for the conduct of the elections. To further strengthen the security arrangements around the polls, the IGP has also deployed 5 DIGs, 3 AIGs, 15 additional CPS to provide supervision, direction and support to the existing security structure already in place in those states. In a statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Frank Mba, the IGP commended the officers for their sterling performances in previous elections and urged them to remain patriotic, steadfast, professional, neutral and civil, but firm in their conducts and actions during the make-up elections. He warned politicians not to undermine the electoral process by engaging in untoward practices such as snatching of ballot boxes, vote trading, and violence of all kinds, stressing that violators would be made to face the full consequences of the law. And still on the elections, ahead of the supplementary polls slated for Saturday in parts of the country, the Civil Society Situation Room is calling on politicians to shun violence and other actions that could undermine the process. And this was at a media briefing in Abuja, and Victor Azu was there.
Nigerians are warming up for Saturday's supplementary elections in 18 states of the Federation, with INEC declaring its readiness for the process. Drawn from observations in the March 9th and 23rd general elections, convener of the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, Clement Nwankwo, is calling on INEC and other key players to ensure transparency so as to add value to the electoral process.
The situation calls on all arms of the security services invited by INEC to assist with the conduct of the supplementary elections to conduct themselves in a non-partisan and professional manner. The situation calls on political parties and candidates to take part in the elections devoid of perpetrating violence, vote buying, or other electoral malpractices.
The Situation Room also calls on Nigerians in the affected areas to come out and elect their preferred candidates. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. At this time, we take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.
The NYC 2019 Batch A orientation course will commence on Wednesday, 27th March 2019 in all NYC orientation camps nationwide. Commencement of registration, Wednesday, 27th March 2019. Cut-off date for registration, 12 midnight. Thursday, 28th March 2019. Swearing-in ceremony, Friday, 29th March 2019. Closing ceremony, Tuesday, 16th April 2019. Prospective corps members are advised to check the following newspapers for details. Tribune, Friday, 22nd March 2019. Leadership and Thursday, Monday, 25th March 2019. Guardian, Tuesday, 26th March 2019. Vanguard, Wednesday, 27th March 2019. Prospective corps members are advised to report to the orientation camp indicated on their call-up letters. Announcer, Management.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
You're welcome back. Now for some reports from the financial sector, let's join Olayin Kaujo for the business news.
Welcome to Business News. The federal government has started the first phase rehabilitation of the 210,000 barrels per day capacity Port Harcourt refinery complex. The scope of the work comprises 60,000 barrels per day old refinery built in 1965 and the 150,000 barrels per day new refinery commissioned in 1989. The exercise, flagged off by the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mekanti Barrow, is coming 19 years after the last turnaround maintenance of the plant. The successful conduct of the general elections is rubbing off positively on investments, with the inflow of over $6 billion into the local bond markets. Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele, who said this at a post-election outlook conference in Lagos, described the foreign capacity inflows to the bond market as an indication of the continued investors' confidence in the strength of the economy. Let's now take a quick check on how the equities market fared this Friday. And that's it on this segment of the news. I am Olayinka Ojo.
22nd March annually is Global Water Day. It is a day meant to focus attention on the importance of fresh water and advocate sustainable management of freshwater resources. This year's theme is Leaving No One Behind. Meanwhile, the federal government has commenced the implementation of the sanitation component of the WASH Action Plan launched by President Muhammadu Buhari last year. In this regard, Minister of Water Resources Suleiman Adamu has launched a website to trigger campaign and monitor developments on open defecation across the nation. Musbah Odanwahab has a report.
Imminently ready to hand over the world #1 ranking in open defecation to Nigeria by October of this year. And Nigeria's government and partners are also striving hard to avoid the shame. But then 47 million Nigerians are still practicing open defecation. Starting off the campaign to end the menace, Water Resources Minister says Nigerians must be aware of the enormity of the health hazard inherent, while the country also loses about 500 billion naira annually to poor sanitation.
The Ministry of Water Resources has put in place the Clean Nigeria program to end open defecation in Nigeria by 2025 with the slogan, Clean Nigeria, Use the Toilet.
The minister says, with the president already demonstrating the political will with the state of emergency declaration on the WASH sector, attaining an open defecation-free Nigeria by 2025 is still feasible. Development partners in the sector also advocate for the provision of toilet facilities in public places, especially in schools, to curb open defecation and prevent Nigerians from the prevalence of waterborne diseases.
Regardless how much we invest today in children or women or community well-being, we realize that as long as you have challenges in access to water, challenges in access to sanitation, the burden remains the same.
Already, the website is active and the ministry encourages everyone to participate in the campaign. In Abuja, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
The Martin Luther Agwe International Leadership and Peacekeeping Training Center of the Nigerian Army, Jaji, has graduated and deployed troops to the Gambia for peacekeeping operations. Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachikun reports.
12 officers, 185 soldiers underwent 4-month pre-redeployment training in various strategy and tactics of peacekeeping and peace support operations.
The troops are to be deployed to the Republic of Gambia in view of the prevailing security challenges there.
The 197 troops were prepared for the multidimensional challenges in contemporary peacekeeping environment based on United Nations pre-redeployment models.
The philosophy behind the training is in line with the Army Headquarters' vision of deploying quality peacekeepers for peace support operations.
Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, represented by the Commandant Nigerian School of Infantry Jaji Major General Ali Kefi, advised the troops to exhibit good morals while in peacekeeping mission in Gambia.
You must respect the cultural and religious sensitivity of the people, that's the host.
The platoons were presented awards for outstanding performance during the training. In Kaduna, I am Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachukun, NTA News.
From other parts of the globe, Uche Ugochuk is our guide.
Hello and welcome. President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, through his Twitter handle, has made public a 19-point plan to help affected communities who suffered losses following Cyclone Ida. The plan includes intensifying the search for the missing and ensuring food relief, free medical services, temporary shelter and clean water, while working to prevent disease outbreaks, restore social services and relocate settlements. The president has declared Saturday and Sunday national mourning days in Zimbabwe. The United States of America has imposed sanctions on 3 senior electoral officials from the Democratic Republic of Congo who played key roles in last year's presidential election. The U.S. government is accusing the sanctioned officials of corruption and obstructing the presidential election, even though it did not question the legitimacy of President Felix Tshisekedi's victory. President Tshisekedi has since been sworn in, taking over from Joseph Kabila. And the European Union says, in accordance with international law, it will not recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights in the wake of U.S. President Donald Trump's declaration that Washington will do so. A spokeswoman for EU Foreign Policy, Chief Federica Mogherini, said in a statement carried by several news outlets. Her comments came as Trump's move is condemned by Syria and its allies, Russia and Iran, as well as Turkey. That's it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu. Thanks for being a part of it.
And now talking sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria has defeated Seychelles 3-1 in the final AFCON qualifier.